welcome. We are actually having a session on how can the DIA just help closing the gap in data literacy. So I'm really pleased to welcome some guests. So I'm actually inviting everybody who's on the panel to come up at this point now. And yeah. So I was asked actually for Yunus Bullet, a colleague of mine inside the EU Apps for Data project, to host this session. And I really was very pleased, especially since I heard who was all joining us today for this session. And yeah, we're still missing you, Francesco. I think you were you came up before. I'm just making sure that you're coming up. But I start with everybody in the line there, the order they're speaking. So first, I want to introduce to you Eleanor Simpel. She's a professor of computer science at King's College London and a fellow of the British Computer Society and a former Turing fellow. And she is a PI, and that's why probably she's here today, of 2 grants in which she actually develops human and AI methods, basically to make participatory science actually work and thrive. And she will tell us later a little bit more about what she's doing. So will the other participants actually do. And I will go on like on my, I don't know if actually the order is the same for the people who are watching, but on my top left screen is Angela Fessel. She's a senior researcher on technology enhanced learning at the No Center in Austria. And she actually has her research interest in technology enhanced learning. And also she will say a little bit more about this later and there. And then we have Andreas Wiese. Basically, he is a managing director of Seekos GmbH in Stuttgart. The company was founded by the University of Stuttgart and the KIT, where I am working actually. And it actually supports technology transfer for small and medium enterprises. And particularly, he's active in the field of HPC and smart data, and he himself worked also as a managing director in a small medium enterprise. So he's on the side representing also the SMEs in this session. And last, not actually for the SMEs, then we have also Francesco Masoni. He works as an executive partner at Hellas, actually, and they are developing a new generation of services to correct life and people and things. And he has before working with EY and NTT and was responsible for strategic project in the banking and finance sector. So, and then now, last but not least, we actually have on our, I'm wondering my slides weren't really in place here. The last is Arthur Tréguier. He's from the European Commission joining us today, and he is a political scientist by training, and he's really passionate about all these digital technologies and looks really how they change actually our work and our cultural habits. So I'm really happy to have you all here in the session. And as a first pitch, basically, that's what we're going to do. We always have the participants actually talking a little bit about the leading questions, and then we can go into a discussion. So as a first discussion point, I want to kind of raise the question why the whole digital literacy is so important in general, but also in Europe particularly. And Elena Simpel has a presentation there and can give us a little bit of insight on this side. Thanks. And yeah, we can see your screen, and please enlighten us. We cannot hear you yet.
I was just saying it's a pleasure to be here, so I'm glad to say it again. 18 months into this pandemic, you could expect perhaps people to know how to mute and unmute themselves, but there we are. To answer the question that this session is asking, so what could digital innovation hubs do about data skills in Europe, I have a short answer. Data literacy is about education, it's about training, it's about knowledge and technology transfer, but it is also about creating a better user experience of data. Say, when you're trying to convince, say, 9 million people who live in London to trust vaccines, the solution is not really to train them to read Nature or read Science or understand the charts that the government is presenting in their daily press conferences. The solution is to understand where they get their information from and how to present that data, that information, in ways that matters to them. And this is an area called human data interaction, which has to do with all human social factors around data work and data engagement more broadly. And I'm just going to briefly give you a summary of a human data interaction project I have done in the last 3 years, to give you a sense of the sort of questions that need to be addressed and the sort of research and research methods that apply here. So the project in question was called Data Stories. It was a project funded by the UK Research Council, and basically started with the premise that we live in a world where numbers shared on buses and jokes shared on social media have a much greater impact than official statistics, extensive research, and proven expertise. And what we were proposing instead is that we need to think about how people consume data, how people engage with it in a different way. Because unless data entertains as well as informs, and unless data excites as well as educates, we will never be able to compete with other content that is shared and posted online, given shortened attention spans, filter bubbles, and all the evils we know about. So this was a 3 years project that was completed in January, and we had a number of partners from journalism, NGOs, Office of National Statistics, and so on and so forth. So very briefly, to just give you a sense of the sort of things we have done and the sort of thing that you could perhaps think about as a digital innovation hub when you define your research and innovation roadmap. So we looked at methods to make data more entertaining. So instead of expecting people to look at spreadsheets or even at charts, we thought about presenting visualizations in a game narrative, so building games about a particular data set. We worked with artists and commissioned, so here is a pinball, and it is fueled by smart city data about air and noise pollution. We've worked with an artist collective and created a whole experience where we engaged with more than 100 people and who had to go through various documents and decide whether to blow the whistle on a story in the pharmaceuticals domains. So different experiences to the ones that we are used to, perhaps. And this is very much related to an H2020 project I'm involved in at the moment, which is called Media Futures, where we're working with artists and commissioning artworks and experiences to have greater reach to the public. Then we've looked at how data and charts travel on social media, and guess what? It matters who posts things, but it also matters how you design the chart itself. So this is something that we've done in the project. Finally, if we go beyond this area of social media and private data consumption, there's lots of professions where people work with data. So data literacy is also about empowering them to do that. So we looked at how to build better search engines to find the data that people need. We try to understand how people make sense of a data set, what they look at, what sort of support they need. We looked at data storytelling, for instance, in a BDVA project called DAIRO, and we developed storytelling tools for procurement intelligence. So to conclude, this is a data world. This affects our professional life, this affects our private and our social lives, and we need new research and new research methods that borrow, among other things, from human-computer interaction to get an understanding of how people engage and consume data, that help us build better tools for them to find the data they need, understand the data, and use it in all sorts of contexts. And this has to be part of a larger data literacy agenda that has huge societal implications. So what could the role of these hubs be? Think beyond training and knowledge and technology transfer. Think about building better data-driven products, services, and applications. If you build a dashboard, do user research to really understand what those users need to take decisions with confidence and how they understand those charts and all the other metrics that you put in your dashboard. And then think about your own research and innovation in human data interaction. Think about the data sets that your machine learning algorithms use. Where do they come from? Are they representative for the region in which you work? Do your user research to understand needs and expectations and implications to ensure technology take-up. And then think about the range of methods you're using, which should be technology-centric, but not restricted just to ICT. Thank you.
So thank you, Elena, for starting this, and I'm inviting everybody back upstage now. But first, I want to start actually with a question to you. So you're saying actually that data actually needs to entertain, inform, excite, and then as well educate. So this seems to be like, if we're talking about a skill acquisition, which is all about education, in the end, some kind of bootstrapping effort. So it's kind of you have to kind of start kind of with the data, be very entertaining, so that people kind of themselves start educate. Is that kind of the thing where what we need to care of? Not thinking about kind of purposeful kind of educational setting, but rather think about how to start from the data.
I think both of them are very important, right? So we definitely need to teach kids in school about what data to trust. But in a sort of scenario that I had, so how do you convince now, New York has vaccinated everyone who wants to vaccinate, and they've reached around 50%. So how do you convince the other 50%, who obviously had access to vaccines, but they had reasons not to? How do you convince them with data, with information, with science, that they should? So in that case, you don't launch a data literacy program in a classical sense, but you really need to think to go to the apps, to the places where people consume those charts or whatever they see to take their decisions, and make sure you understand those. And that's the point of intervention. And the other answer I have, so I have started in January to refresh my French on Duolingo, which is this app that lets you learn languages in a gamified way. So I do 15 minutes of French every day. I'm not very good, but my point is, I was thinking when I was doing the slide, so what is the equivalent of Duolingo for data literacy? Something that you could just do while you wait at the bus, rather than enroll on a course for 6 weeks, have assessments, and have this whole framework of learning, which for people who have left education is quite constraining if they have a life to live and kids to bring to school and a job and so on and so forth. So we need to think. And I hope Angela agrees with me as well. We need to think about how to make our existing educational programs more engaging, but we also need to think about the places where people get their data from and how to make that data speak to people in ways relevant to them.
Now the unmuting thing happened to me, actually. So Angela, you were actually asked directly. So would you agree on this? Do we really have to start where the people are, or should we rather kind of integrate more in classical setting, educational setting?
Yes, first of all, yes, I agree on this. So I think teaching, and especially in the last year in the COVID situation, has become a very important role, especially for teachers, for our pupils, but also for lecturers at universities. So I think teaching in a conventional way is what we were used for years. Now during COVID, the situation changed, and there was a sudden shift from bringing this face-to-face teaching in a short term to virtual teaching. And there's a need now really to address the skill gap on the side of the students in order to really be able to learn at home virtually, but at the same time, and this is what I will also show or briefly mention in my pitch, to educate the teachers, the lecturers. We need to educate them or give them the skills, the competences to convey their teaching in a way virtually that they still reach their students, their pupils, in order to make them further learn. So yes, I agree with Elena on this topic.
So the question for me would be following that is there really a difference in digital literature if we're speaking of a classical teaching situation or daily life kind of thing? So also the skills needing to be acquired on this thing, or thinking of a business level. So because Francesco, I'm again missing you on the camera. I'm asking you. You're thinking kind of is it the same like on this side if we're talking in the business setting as we are talking in schools education in a classical sense, if we're talking about digital literacy or digital skills there? Not hearing you yet. Maybe somebody else can. Andreas, you can also answer that maybe for
I think there are differences, but the scenarios are actually not so different. It more depends on how deep do you want to go there. So if you want to dive deep, you need to be, let's say, you get more theoretical, more background. And if you want to stay on the practical side, I think it's not so much of a difference whether you have vocational training with somebody who's trying to look at data analytics technology to apply it to his job in a more general way, or whether you look at pupils who are still in their development and just have to learn about these things in order to, well, understand the world.
So the question, there, yeah, they are. The question to me also is a little bit how deep. I mean, you mentioned also now how deep, like one level of depth. So what is the level of depth? So we are now talking about this COVID situation. So like a simple, Elena was giving the situation to convince people kind of there, but I'm also seeing this thing like with these quick antigen tests, for example, you're getting the statistics on kind of the sensitivity and the specificity. So is it really that we also like if we're now talking like plain statistics there, are we in a world where everybody needs to understand that? I mean, this is kind of the basis also for scientific understanding, I guess, to know those words. So, yeah, Elena.
I think yes. I think if you think about how we teach people to know what their temperature is and to know their blood pressure, and these are 3 on their pulse, so 4 vital signs which you should take to keep an eye on your health. And given that specificity is an attribute not just for this test, but that applies in many other areas, I think it's not too outrageous to assume that we could and we should, especially now that we are in the pandemic and we're going to be in the pandemic for the next years. So it's really just basic literacy for me, and it is driven by the situation we're in.
So the question that also came from the audience, I'm really happy that there are some questions also coming in from the audience here. I want to pick up also is when do we start with this? So basically, and one question that follows up on me for me is also, is that somehow something also like this digital literacy thing that's different in Europe? Maybe Arthur, you can say, I don't know if you have the overview there. Do you see, is it kind of handled in the same way across the European Union? Is there a common understanding when and to what level to integrate that? Also kind of in everything from education into vocational kind of teaching and so on? Or is there still, you think that there is something needed to kind of also make that unified in a way across the European Union?
Well, yeah, maybe I can try to answer on this, because yeah, it's true that today for sure we are facing a very fragmented European Union when it comes to digital skills and to data literacy, because for sure the situation is really different, let's say in countries up in the north of Europe, and because it's sad to say, but the divide is mostly north-south. So it's true that we have this fragmented framework and with very different situations, but it's also true that all countries today are trying to tackle this gap and are trying to implement quite ambitious policies in terms of digital skills, and we see it in all these recovery plans, because as you may know, we are also working today with member states in drafting and helping them to actually have very impactful policies in their recovery plan, and we see more and more very ambitious policies for digital skills being in countries in the north of Europe but we can see it almost everywhere. So I would say that we start from a very fragmented landscape, but it's true that today we see it everywhere that digital skills and tackling the digital skills gap is becoming a top priority, and it's very high on the political agenda almost everywhere in Europe. And this is something we can definitely see.
So actually, that's a good transfer, from that we should do it to kind of coming to how we do it. And I think Angela has something to say also a little bit on how we can actually address this skill gap. If we make that into policies and so on, we need to kind of have a strategy on doing that and how this can be integrated also in education. So Angela, maybe you can give us a little bit of insight there.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Perfect.
Perfect, okay. Thank you for the first introduction, for this first nice discussion round. I will try to give you now a little bit on how can we address the skill gap through the dedicated education. So yes, very short and very briefly, I'm from the Know Center. The Know Center is a Comet Center, research center in the field of big data and data-driven business. We have been providing the interface between science and business on topics such as big data, artificial intelligence, and data-driven business models since 2000. Today, I will really try to give a very short pitch on how we can address the skill gap through dedicated education. Improving education and skills is or are a key part of the overall vision for digital transformation in Europe. Employees on all levels need these digital competences in order to cope with the digitalized and fast-changing labor work. Let me tell you one number or two numbers. For example, 90% of all our jobs also require at least some basic digital skills, and 43% of European citizens and over a third of the European labor force have a lack in digital skills. As you all know, digital technologies infuse our professional as well as private lives. Having at least basic digital literacy and skills need to be a kind of precondition for participating effectively in our today's society. And in order to address the skill gap, we need to start already in the education, in the training of digital skills as early as possible. So I would suggest I think it's important to educate pupils and students at all levels. They should already gain digital competences. And I'm not talking here about the competences they already have by using mobile devices or notebooks, or how to post an Instagram post photo, or how to use Snapchat or WhatsApp or what's out there. I really talk about digital competences in the sense of this DICCOM framework. So this includes not only collaboration and communication on the web, but also data security. What is secure? Who can I trust? And things like this. I also think that it's really important for our pupils and students to know or get basic knowledge about artificial intelligence and data science. They should know, or at least from a basic level, what is artificial AI, artificial intelligence. What can this do for us? What can this do for me? What is ongoing there? Also regarding data science, at least they should have a kind of a glimpse of what data science is. I mean, most of this is statistics, but in the end, they should know what data science could do for them. Maybe they're interested in getting a job there. And this should also include disadvantaged pupils and students. On the other side, in order to have our pupils and students get well educated on these digital competences, it is also very, very important to educate our teachers. They, for example, should also acquire digital competences. As I said before, the COVID situation and the short shift from face-to-face training or education, learning, teaching to everything online was a real big challenge for them. So also they need to acquire digital competences, not only for themselves, but also to be able to teach our pupils and students. And for example, we have now an Erasmus Plus project that goes exactly in this direction, giving teachers, but also in this case, it's in-service teachers as well as students or teacher students, the possibility to acquire these competences that they need in their daily job. If we go in the direction of workplace settings, as you all know, skills needs are evolving as fast as technology. So the technology is evolving so quick and so fast that the upskilling and reskilling in this speed is really difficult, if not impossible. And if you, for example, if you look at, for example, the blue collars, also they need, as a kind of example, these basic digital skills in order to be able to do their work, in order to cope with their work. So they need some basic, I would suggest some basic digital literacy, artificial intelligence and data analytics knowledge, just baseline. But in order to deal with this whole digitization and to be able to use the machines they have to use in their work. And one idea or what I read shortly could be a kind of novel approach to the technology development. Maybe it would make sense to use a human-centric approach to put a human or to put the human needs at the heart of, for example, production processes. Make technologies more intuitive and user-friendly. So, for example, we could use augmented reality or virtual reality that workers, for example, are aware of, and that would not require to educate or reskill or upskill them all the time. But with their basic knowledge, they will be able to work, to use the machines, and to cope with the digitization in their companies or production lines. So I think digital skills are relevant for our work as well as our private lives, for our jobs as well as in leisure time. And there is an urgent need to improve the training and education possibilities at all levels so that we can cope with the challenges of the ongoing digitization affecting all our lives, and especially also in the COVID situation as it is now.
Thank you, Angela. I think that is kind of a good start point for the discussion. And I immediately, and everybody can join again with their cameras, thought again, but you then actually explained it a little bit what it might be the solution. Do we really need digital tools to teach about kind of the basic knowledge that is needed to understand digital technology? So do we really need computers and to learn about statistical or computational thinking, or is it something different? The technology that's used to teach and the technology we're teaching about, or does it need to be the same? I think with your augmented reality thing in the end, it might be a good way kind of to integrate that, but maybe you can answer that.
Well, digital methods to convey the basic concepts of information or literacy, this is nice to have, but it is not a must. However, I would say it's very useful to see such concepts in practice. So if I teach statistics, which I not do, but if I would teach statistics, I think you need to transfer the basic knowledge of statistics. And this is something you can do with technology or in the classroom without technology. But applying it to data sets, as Elena said, this is then something you really need to do with the help of technology. So I think it's a kind of mixture. We need both parts. First, to learn the basics, to learn the knowledge, to learn the basic concepts, and then later on put it into practice and see how this might work.
Perfect. I think that can you stop your screen sharing so that we can get the other screen in full screen mode? I think that's much better kind of for the discussion there, just as a small thing there. Perfect. There was actually a question from the audience coming also in that I now, since Francesco is up, I finally want to ask him also something. I mean, you're an expert kind of in all these, your company is an expertise in a lot of fields that are kind of in machine learning and AI. So a question to you, do you think that most of the concepts are mature enough to be really taught on a school level, or kind of is it something also that has to be considered that more kind of a better understanding what's required kind of on the basic level is needed?
Yeah.
Francesco?
Yeah. Oh, no. Thank you for very much for the participation to this event. From our side, I mean, we are a company that makes services based on a data management and artificial intelligence as well. So basically, some topics that already discussed today are very important also in order to build effective products for us towards our markets. So that's very important, not only in terms of skills that we need in order to produce our value proposition, but it's also skills that we need in order to provide consultant services towards our customers in order to adopt a really proof of value concept as a project, as a product delivery towards our customers.
I think, Angela, you wanted to say something as well directly on this one?
Yes, I think, regarding the teaching of statistics, for example, this has to be really adapted to the needs and to the pupil or the student you have in front of you. You cannot teach a secondary school pupil in the same way as you would teach a student or as you would teach an adult. So you need to be very sophisticated and very, very careful how to teach them. If you tell, for example, a pupil, okay, let's do data science, and then you say all data science is about statistics, most of them would run away and say, okay, I'm not interested in statistics. So you really have to be very, very careful how you convey such content. But in the end product or the end knowledge they should have when they finish school, for example, this should be then something which could be useful at the workplace.
Elena, you also want to say something?
Yes, I agree with the colleagues. Just perhaps 2 points. Also related to what I was trying to say in my presentation. Let's just say we built procurement intelligent dashboards for civil servants. They have put lots of effort into opening up all their data about government spending, and they're building dashboards for themselves and for citizens. Now, you could wonder how people understand those charts, right? And you could send them to a data visualization course. But you could also just, as part of that dashboard, think a little bit about the sort of questions people will have and just do very basic things like, I don't know, explain people what outliers are. Yeah, so if there is an outlier, just call it, this is an outlier. An outlier is a data point that doesn't fit into a pattern, right? So if we're thinking about dashboards as one way to consume data in professional context, in private context, just adding a little bit more information here and there could be quite useful. I think thinking about the audience and thinking, about the experience as well, and where and how people learn could be quite useful.
I have a question there, kind of regarding kind of sometimes the magic in such interfaces often that you kind of, or a lot of interfaces, is you don't understand it, or at least that was the selling point of a lot of those interfaces. And also some companies there are selling a lot of these things as magic, as something nobody else can do, and so on. So a lot of my feeling is that a lot of teaching digital literacy is kind of really kind of telling people that this isn't magic. This is like at the basis very simple stuff. Then maybe there is a small gap there. That's where when you can do it really well, it's still different. But how does that fit? Maybe you directly, Elena, kind of is there kind of something in intuition that tells us not to kind of call the things what they are?
Right. Yeah. So very well. So I'm a trained computer scientist. So you know how they say in coding, if it was hard to code, it should be hard to debug and understand. So because otherwise, you know, people will think it's super trivial. So I think we need to distinguish there between teaching someone to use a machine learning model in Python and teaching a decision maker who looks at the results of a machine learning model, what they do. And I think in the second category, it's fine to abstract from all details, just like I don't need to understand how the electricity grid works to be able to make decisions on the providers, but I still need to understand what data they're showing me. And in that regard, I think even if you think that machine learning is something that lots of people use and lots of people want to experiment with, so you have pre-trained models, and you just take them and it's advertised like 3 lines of Python code and you can use it. And we apply them to all sorts of high stakes domains. So then it's really worth thinking about how do you teach someone who has a background, a relevant background, say he's a business analyst and wants to use a BERT model. How do you teach them just enough to understand what the model does and to understand about the implications? So one area which I find personally very interesting, but I don't know much about, is visualization in machine learning. So I've seen some incredible visualizations of decision trees and some of these standard models that really, you know, make the idea quite intuitive. Of course, they don't train you into all the nitty-gritty details, but I don't think that's always needed.
Francesco?
Yeah, I would like to add some comments on what Elena said, because it's very important to, let's say, to put our experience. I mean, our colleagues, which are both business analysts as well as machine learning developers, using Python and blah blah blah. We usually participate these colleagues to the business discussion involving our customers, our clients. Why? Because it's very important to understand the business model of our customers in order to get some business insights and to model or to get an effective modeling of our services. And after that, the experience we learn is that our clients usually or often opens new discussions about their model or their way to operate and to take decisions because of the machine learning outcomes or data insights that we can provide them. So that's very important to include our colleague, both technical and business level, to their discussion with our client to get a short chain, let's say, in terms of business delivery.
So that's, I think, a good point to get to the next point, kind of to look at the current state of affairs kind of in this area. And Andreas, I think, knows very well exactly what kind of customers actually kind of also Francesco is facing, not in the Italian side, basically on the German side. So Andreas, maybe you want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing with producing SMEs in Germany.
Yes, very much so. just a few words about the background so that you can see where I'm coming from and where I'm headed at. So SICOS actually is a company that's owned by two universities, the University of Stuttgart and the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. We are also funded by our science ministry in the state of Baden-Württemberg. And our task is to support small and medium-sized enterprises in picking up these new technologies, of course, latest technology, high technology. And we do this in two parts. There's one part, which is the HPC, high performance computing, which is more related towards Stuttgart, which we are not talking about today, although there are relations, of course. But we'll focus here on the data analytics side, smart data, big data, going forward to AI. And so my challenge is actually to go around, walk around, find SMEs who might make good use of these technologies and then support them in actually doing this. And so I have a little bit oversimplified here the challenge that, well, I am meeting and also the SMEs are meeting. And of course, this is not purely fair, but it's definitely exaggerated. But if you have this mindset when you approach an SME, that they usually have no time because they are struggling for their business to go on. They have no clue in a sense that they are no data experts. And in many cases, they are not even, let's say, IT experts or even, well, they use IT, but it's just like a tool for them. It's like I'm using a hammer. They are using IT to do their business. And also, they are usually much tighter on money than if you're talking to large companies. So just imagine when big data came up, what did Daimler do when they heard about it? They set up a small team of, let's say, 10 people by the board of directors. They had the task to find out what this new technology is and what does it mean for Daimler and its business. And so they collected experts and they had, well, time, half a year, and they could concentrate on it. And now think of a 10 or 20 or even, let's say, 100-person company, which is producing stuff. They are not IT people, but they are producing and selling stuff. You immediately see the difference. They hear about this, read in the newspapers, but it's very difficult for them to really understand what this is all about, and especially what does it mean for them. And therefore, we started this kind of cycle. Actually, it grew into a cycle. So in the beginning, we said, okay, of course, we have to inform these people. We have, well, if they are interested, we do some consulting in a sense that we just talk to them, try to understand their problem, try to understand what solutions might be there. The next step then is kind of brokerage. So we bring them together with the right people to help them. And once we fairly understood what their problem is, we can, well, some people I bring to Till and we are working on the research side, but we also have service providers, for example, who provide exactly the service this company needs. Then we put those two together. And then we've talked about education already. If they want to know more about it and not just work with an external consultant or service provider, the idea of qualification starts. And how do I qualify my employees so that they are more familiar with this technology and can help us to really apply it at its best? And finally, the stage of funding. In many cases, if they want to introduce new technology, they usually don't have the means to just like that do it. So we try to help them find proper funding, public funding, low interest rate credit, whatever, in order to get them going. And a company that enters, let's say, at 12 o'clock probably is already happy with brokerage. Other companies really want to dive deep into it and want to train their employees. So this is all flexible. And remember, we are funded by our shareholders. So this is a service that's actually free for the SMEs because there are already thresholds, hurdles they have to overcome, and we didn't want to ask them for money in the first step before we want to get going. And what we've developed over time with our partners at the universities is such a solution center concept. So we work with solution centers actually since 2008. And we see them as a bridge between industry and science. Remember, my background, of course, is the universities. And as I said, we try to have a kind of on-site appointment. Well, in Corona times, it's more online, but I'm looking forward to going back there, talk to them, understand them, give them a first analysis of the potential we see, and then recommend for further action. So that's the first step. And the idea is really to provide insight with real projects. So we try to work with the data they have. So it's not theoretical, it's their data, and they understand the value, and make it much easier for them to go into this world and discover the potential for practical improvements in their everyday life. And well, this is still not easy, and every case is different, but the feedback we get is really very, very positive. And so we think we are going along a good path here.
So thank you, Andreas, and I invite everybody back up on stage again as well. So the question you answered is partially there. So for me, the solution center is pretty much what on the European level is very similar to this DIH, Digital Innovation Hub kind of feeling. So you do really think that those digital innovation hubs kind of can be the access point for people who have never basically want to work with data, want to understand better from a business perspective, and have done it to enter this world. You think that strategy has proven successful? And I haven't quite gotten as a second question. You see it more on these DIHs more on the making side. That was also a question from the audience, or more on a training side and kind of instructing side.
First, I think it is a good tool, and that's basically there are a few reasons, but let me name two. The first one is these SMEs, they don't have a lot of time to walk around and inform themselves. So if we on the other side form these kind of hubs and promote them and make them known, it's very easy for them if they have heard about us. And what's the second point is what's very, very important, and what's given in these DIHs is we are neutral. We are not trying to sell them. If you open up a company, the first time your address is out there, you'll get people connecting you. They want to sell you something. And so the first thing you learn is be careful. But if you want to address a new technology and want to open to it, you need somebody you trust. So the first thing is they make it easier to find. And the second is they are neutral and they don't want to sell them. And so that brings us also, if I don't want to sell them, I cannot be really a maker in its way. We ourselves, we see us as broker. We don't take any money from the companies we refer the SMEs to. So it's still very neutral. We support, let's say, the development of education programs, but not financially, but by the knowledge of what the companies need, or by establishing connections. So actually, we are really networking guys, and networking only works if everybody benefits from it. And the biggest value that we have is trust. And this is where everything else, then if you do that right, the other things pop in place pretty good. But it's not still easy, but it's a good way to do it.
Arthur? Arthur, you want to say?
Yes. Yeah, it's more a remark than a question, because I can totally echo what you just said, Andreas, because we are actually facing exactly the same problem when we are trying to work with SMEs, and when we are actually trying to help SMEs to develop the digital skills of their staff. For example, just to give you a quick example, so we are implementing right now a program which is called the Digital Volunteers. And within this program, we want large companies to send kind of volunteers or mentors, I would like to call it, to SMEs to help them actually to digitalize their process. And the thing is, it was, and surprisingly, it was quite easy to find large companies that were actually willing to participate in this program, because they actually want to participate to develop digital skills in Europe, and they want to participate to this collective action. But it was actually way harder to find SMEs that were actually wanted to participate to this program, because exactly what you said, because there's this problem of trust, and also because there's this simple problem that they are not aware of the possibility of, I don't know, data analysis, but also other kind of technologies. And really for us, it was super complicated to find SMEs that were actually willing to participate to this program. And for this, we actually rely on digital innovation hubs to actually help us for this brokerage between large companies, between ourselves. And I believe that here, digital innovation plays really a key role in this trust problem. So this is just what I wanted to say, and really we totally echo what you just say, and we are really actually facing exactly the same problem when trying to reach out to SMEs.
So Andreas was mentioning a lot this time issue in the end, and I was wondering myself if where does this go in the end, kind of coming more also from an education side? Do we really have to adapt education to a sense that it really needs to be so time efficient, so kind of in the sense so that you can do it kind of while doing anything else? Or does there need to be also a shift again, that we take more time and also that we motivate the companies and incentivize the companies actually to invest time or more time to a deeper understanding, because that's, I think, a complicated thing, especially for the SMEs to be incentivized kind of to spend this time. So maybe, I don't know, I don't know, Angela, you think, can we do kind of education just as we go along, really? You said like with augmented reality and so on, or does it really need to be the willingness at the time be invested in the end?
I think in the end, it's the willingness of the individual people to attend such a training. If you do it, I don't know, somewhere else where you have to go to or online, it's time and it's money. But on the other hand, it's also, if I would be a SME and have, I don't know, 10 or 50 people who I would like or who need some education, it's really a matter of possibility to send the people of the SME somewhere, or give them 1 hour of a day or 1 day in a month for training, because people in SMEs or the SMEs themselves, they need to survive, and their main core is the business, whatever they do. And giving one person free 1 day or 1 hour a week or whatever is really, really difficult for them. An example could be, I did an interview study for another project where it was about the uptake of open science and resources in an SME. I just wanted to have half an hour or 1 hour for an interview with an SME. During COVID, it was really not possible due to time reasons, to money reasons, and to reasons that belong to the survival of the companies. So yes, this is really, really a big problem. There's no time, no money, and bringing people then, or giving them the possibility to attend a training or to educate them. The other way, what could be done is maybe what we also are often looking at is workplace learning, that you, for example, give the people directly while working new information. So if someone, for example, is preparing a workshop and you type in workshop, then you get additional information, for example, how to create a workshop, which could be, or examples for an agenda, whatever. And if you do this, for example, for data science, this would be much more difficult because learning data science on the fly is not possible. So it really depends also on the topic. But yes, it's a matter of time and money and resources.
That will be a very interesting challenge for the digital innovation hubs to get exactly kind of into these channels kind of in the end something. But Elena, you also wanted to add to that.
Yeah, just very briefly. So I am part of one of the BDVA projects that supports SMEs. It is called Data Market Services. And I also used to lead 2 data incubators where we were supporting startups in their innovation journey, among others, with training. I totally agree about the time constraints. So in data market services, we are offering the whole range of trainings for free, trainings that usually would cost substantial investment. And you see people want to take advantage of the opportunity, but they do struggle to prioritize. So that led us to redesign some of those professional development courses that we had, which were very good. We had very good feedback from people who had the bandwidth to do them, and to really think about meeting people where they are, and like Angela said, workplace learning is an option, but it is, we don't really know how to do that for complex subjects like data science very well, beyond perhaps the somewhat trivial examples I brought up earlier about dashboards. So that was for us a learning. The other thing is that especially when it comes to startups and SMEs, there is not just the skills gap, but there is also a challenge around having access to talent. So lots of our experience has been that people, those organizations, they needed either mentoring, very specific type of mentoring in a very specific type of machine learning method applied to a very specific type of data in a very specific type of context, just to be able, almost like a sanity check or pointer to methods that they perhaps didn't know about. And that, I think, can work quite well in the sort of European projects that we have, and the digital innovation hubs that are in place and are planned. The bigger issue is, though, that they needed people to hire. They needed to build capacity in-house. And that's almost as important, I think, to upskilling the company staff itself. And I have heard earlier, I think, that there would be a skills common European data space, and I wonder for myself rhetorically how that could help. But definitely we need to find a way to build those capacities, because everything else that we're doing, training and supporting small businesses otherwise, will not be as effective.
So I would then come over from this this view that we really need to do something, also more to the value of doing it. And I think Francesco can say something about that. Why is it so important, especially for the very digital SMEs also in the ecosystem that are seeing the value actually to build up this skill on a global level? So Francesco.
Yeah. Do I show my presentation?
Yeah, you can show your presentation from your screen if that works. Otherwise, we can do that for you if you. Perfect.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. That's yeah. Halles is a digital small company which is founded by 4 senior managers, including me, and we thought to fund such a new project because of our different experiences, trying to push on the market some new ideas on how to use such a new digital technology like data advanced analysis, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things technologies, and so on. At the end, Halles produces toward the markets products that are services, which leverage on these technologies. And at the end, we try to enrich the data ecosystem of our customers with different data sources, including real data getting from environment in order to improve their business services or to get benefits towards their business model. So from our experience point of view, what we see is that the data modeling that our customer, in our market are using is, let's say, more human or experience-based in terms of data modeling or econometrics modeling for decision-making. Often are not context-based, so they don't consider that are very statistical model, not considering, let's say, the context on what they are going to evaluate. Are not data-driven, meaning that the policy that they use in order to take decision are more based on a executive experiences. And not, let's say, supported by a data-driven model to discover a further, let's say, way to take decision based on a further data analysis outcomes. There is often no cross systems or let's say, models that are considering cross-model outcomes in order to be more effective. And there is no training and improvement in terms of lesson learned, in terms of a real enterprise community to improve their decision models thanks to the data results and data analysis. So at the end, what we see is that this approach to modelize or to get to data modeling is more affecting some business process from our point of view, from the type of the market that we are going to serve, as about the way to rate a risk in order to take a decision for their policy, or rather than prices or tariff definitions, or to take decision in order to evaluate the portfolio, the customer portfolio in a B2B2C model, for instance. And so the portfolio selection based on a automatically learn from the data, which can be, let's say, select the portfolio in a better way. And further, let's say, processes about maintenance, about assistance, about therapy for the health market and so on. So this is basically on a, for instance, data literature gap, or rather than data culture in general. And so that's why our approach, in order to go to the market, both for big and small medium enterprise companies, is to get a push and pull model for our offering. So a push model is to present a proof of concept project with a successful case, more close to their model, their business model, in order to understand the potential benefits that they can get, and a pool model in order to get their really needs. Andreas mentioned for sure for SMEs the point that they don't have time, they don't have investment resources and so on. But basically, that's very important, business understanding and the context understanding for our target client. That's why our product includes also the consulting services and a proof of value and a proof of concept project, which has embedded our products, including providing of the technology solutions as well as tailored services.
So thank you, Francesco, and I'm again inviting everybody else on stage as well. So first of all, to you, Francesco, so which one is the more complex one, kind of, if you're now having your offering and want to be sustainable as a company in terms of skills? Is it more difficult for you to acquire skills inside your company, kind of get people that are on the skill level for the prices I guess you can pay in the end? Or is it more, is it the challenge rather that it would be better if the businesses you're cooperating with would have more skills, so it would be easier to access them? So what is the problem you're facing more?
Yeah, thank you, Till. Yeah, for sure, the skills that we need are not so, let's say, so easy find it out from the market, from the skill markets and so on. So basically, we use an approach to get a professional training path for our colleagues in order to engage, let's say, both technical, so software developers, for instance, and statisticians and mathematics, in order to contaminate our teams and to get knowledge transfer between them. And so basically, as for instance, Angela said before, statistics or new, let's say, young people that we are meeting are pure statistics or mathematics, but interested to get skills in computers, science, and software development in order to get concrete or to see concrete results and outcomes from their applications.
Andreas, you?
Yeah, I would like to pick on something that Francesco very clearly showed, the relation between the business aspect and the data aspect. And and that's also the reason why actually almost everybody in a company should at least have some idea about what this data analytics stuff is all about. Because in order to find out where in the company this technology might be applied, you need to know the business relations. Yeah? And you can do a lot of nice analytics in an area that doesn't bring a lot to the revenue of the company. So it's nothing worth it. And in this point, I would also like to contradict Elena a little bit when she said that all this training stuff, it's not, we need to bring more people from the outside, experts into the small companies. But basically, I would agree. But for small companies, it's extremely difficult to hire really good experts. So I know at KIT, if you wait in front of when they all get their masters, whatever, you see all the big companies like SAP, Bosch, Daimler, IBM, and they go for the best candidates and they are gone. And then you have a small company in the Black Forest with, let's say, 20 people, and you have probably work for half a data analyst. Yeah, you will never be able to get a 50% shared time good analyst to get into the Black Forest. So the best thing you can do is to train the people you have, which brings the advantage. They know already the business. So that's why I think that training is especially important for the smaller ones, although in an ideal world, they would get the good people as easy as the big ones get them.
Yeah, just to respond to that, I spent 3 years in Karlsruhe at KIT, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And the place where I am now is no different. So we have the best graduates, and then London, they go straight to JP Morgan. So just to because I was a bit sloppy earlier. So what I was referring to is really startups. So you have, the two founders, they are going for pre-seed money, and obviously machine learning and AI is the secret sauce, the magic ingredient, like we were saying earlier. But they do need then to try to hire because if they don't have that capacity, so either the founders have that knowledge, or they definitely need to do their bit to hire. And as a startup, it's not easy, but some startups offer all sorts of other incentives, and including equity, and the startup experience itself is quite interesting for some. So that was the specific context that I was referring to. But I think there has to be a basic level of literacy in data everywhere, just like we have now a basic level of literacy in, I don't know, Excel.
I fully agree to what you just said. We are on the same side. That's why I said
Great.
It appears that I contradict, but I'm sure we are thinking along the same lines.
So the question also, maybe again to Francesco, is a little bit that come also from the audience, is how much understanding of the underlying mechanisms and so on you need from the people you're working with. Or are you rather, you said you're doing a lot of proof of concept kind of styles, if it works kind of things. So the question is, do your customers need to look below kind of the layer and understand kind of what the product is about? And kind of, if you would have, like as a second question, have this understanding, would that accelerate your business much more there if you have higher literacy on that underlying technology on your customer side?
Yeah, thank you, Till. Yeah, for the first question, basically, companies or customers that we are serving want to see the benefit of our product. So before let's say to explain our product, they want to see benefits they benefit expectations that our POC aims to provide. And after that, the product identity could be shaped, let's say. So as Andreas said, a step after, we understood their business model, their problems, their needs, as to provide the aims of the business, of the proof of concept project. So they want to see exactly what our product can provide in terms of business value or benefits for them. Second question is, for people, if I well understood the question, Till, about training, about knowledge, is that I mean, I agree on what the colleague said before. I mean, it's not easy to find out the competence, it's not easy to find out the skills and the incentive for people that we want to keep, because we are a small company, not big, like Andreas mentioned before. And so that's very important to create the right mood, the right, operating environment to push people to grow and to get scale together in order to get the right performance and the right benefits on that.
I need to unmute my microphone. So this gives a good introduction also to Arthur, basically, who can basically say a little bit from what can still be done, because the questions were all that how can we incentivize, how can we support, and so on all along. And certainly the European Commission is in a position that really wants to do that. And it would be really interesting to hear what the Commission thinks can be done and what we can expect for the next year.
Yeah. Thank you, Till, and thank you, colleagues.
Yunus, can you share the slides from Arthur?
Yeah, I'm sorry, because I can't share it myself, and I can tell you that it's not because I don't have the digital skills to do it, but really it's because my computer doesn't allow me to do it. But yeah, I think, as you said, Till, I think it's good that I actually come at the end of this session, because what you said all during this session, I think we are trying to actually capture this in the EU policy action, and I think we manage quite well. So I will present it to you in my presentation. Maybe we can go to the next slide. Yeah, thank you. And the thing is, when I was working on this presentation, I was like, okay, what does it mean to me, digital skills, and what is data literacy? Because, so as you rightly mentioned, I'm working at the European Commission, I'm working in DigiConnect Unit F4, dealing with digital economy, digital skills, and the recovery plan. But I'm not myself an expert in data analysis or data science. So I was trying to capture, okay, what does it mean to me? And then I had this example that came into my mind is the example of Guillaume Rosier, is a French engineer, so probably you don't know him because I believe that I'm the only French in the panel, but he's now quite famous in France because he developed this very nice and very intuitive tool which is called COVID Tracker. And actually, during a year, he has been monitoring the pandemic evolution with this very nice tool using very nice and very easy to understand graphics with the number of cases, the number of deaths, the number of recovery. And now he created this new tool, which is called Vitmado. So give me a jab quickly, something like this, where you can actually go, and if you want to get some leftover vaccine doses, then you can go and you can try to get one. And all this is actually based on open public data. And this Guillaume Rosier became actually quite famous, and he even received this Ordre National du Mérite, which is one of the highest distinctions you can get in France in just a year. So really, it's really a successful story. And what we want to do is actually in Europe have more Guillaume Rosier and have more really expert in digital technologies and expert in data analysis. So as you can see in the slide, we are still very far from this because 25% roughly of the workforce in Europe still have low level of digital skills. We have approximately 500,000 missing big data analysis in Europe, and we can already say that jobs in 2030 will not look the same in multiple ways, and this is very clear. And I think Angela, you also said it. So we estimate that in 2030, around 10% of the workforce will need to go to new jobs because basically jobs will not exist anymore. And the thing is, this new job doesn't exist yet. So the thing is, we have to prepare the workforce of tomorrow, and we have to give them the right skills. And these skills are indeed digital skills or green skills. This is also reflected in business. So 64% of them report that it is actually difficult to recruit ICT specialists, and more than 70% of businesses report that the lack of staff with adequate digital skills is actually an obstacle to investment. Yunus, can you go to the next slide? So this is a bit this is all for the empiric evidence. Know what we are trying to do at EU level. So we have this very ambitious target from the digital decade communication. What we want is to have by 2030 at least 80% of the European population with at least basic digital skills. We want to have 20 million ICT employed specialists, including indeed data specialists, and we want to have 75% of European companies that are actually using cloud computing, big data, or artificial intelligence, and 90% of SMEs that reach a basic level of digital intensity. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is the main instrument. This is what we are going to use to reach these targets at EU level. So we have this Digital Euro program, and within this Digital Euro program, we have one specific pillar for advanced digital skills. It's approximately 8% of the total budget of the Digital Euro program, meaning that in 7 years we will have 500. Can you actually hear me and see me well? Because I have a pop-up message saying my connection is
perfect.
Good. So I hope that you can. Okay, very good. So we will have 580 million euros to develop digital skills in Europe, advanced digital skills. Next slide, please. Thank you, Yunus. And this slide actually echoes very much what you just said. So you said that SMEs actually need to better upskill and reskill their workforce. And this is exactly what we want to do with the Digital Euro program, with a short-term training in advanced technologies. This is a contribution to the SME strategy. So what we want to do is basically to give the means to SMEs employees to develop their competencies in key strategic technologies such as indeed data analysis, but also artificial intelligence, high performance computing, cyber security, etc., etc. So really here the objective is really to upskill and reskill the existing workforce. And on the other hand, what we have is that we want to create actually education program, master classes for and in key emerging technologies. And to develop this new master program, we want all active stakeholders to come together and to develop this master program. So we want university to actually partner with SMEs. We want SMEs to partner with Excellence Center. And indeed, we want digital innovation hubs to also be involved in the design of this new master program. So last year, we launched a pilot call to see a bit how this could work. And we launched a pilot call targeting only artificial intelligence master. And so next year we will found actually 4 new masters in artificial intelligence. So some of them are quite general on artificial intelligence, and some others are more specific. It's artificial intelligence applied, for example, to healthcare, or artificial intelligence applied to public services. So really the idea of the Digital Euro program and of this strategic objective on advanced digital skills is really to give Europe the means to really compete globally, to have more experts in Europe. And this goes a bit both ways, so more in upskilling, reskilling, but also training more and more ICT experts in Europe with this new master program that we are creating. I know that I'm already running late, so I guess I can probably skip this slide. I can just say that the Digital Euro program is indeed not the only fund that will actually support the development of digital skills, but digital skills are actually supported by other EU fundings, and including what I said already at the beginning of this session, by the recovery plan, because we actually encourage member states to actually implement quite ambitious measures to promote digital skills in Europe. So I'm stopping here. I'm happy to take any question if you have, and yeah, thank you.
So we have, I think, another 7 minutes to discuss. So we're perfect in time. I think I think we can go on forever actually discussing, but I think that could give us a little bit more chance to get into the depths of how exactly the DIHs actually can support there. You said, especially for this master program, you're seeing an opportunity to participate there in the thing. So you really think that DIHs have a central role also in the training activities in a whole education setup, probably starting, that would be my question, from after normal high school and so on education. So we're talking basically advanced education.
Yeah. So maybe to answer this question, the thing is, what we want to do at EU level, we really want to avoid any kind of like top-down approach where we are actually imposing new, I don't know, education program or things like this. We really want to have everyone involved, because we believe that digital skills challenge, it can only be tackled if everyone is actually working together. So the thing is, we want actually companies to upskill and reskill their staff. We want training institutions to actually work with SMEs to see a bit, okay, what do they need? How training institution can help actually SMEs employees to upskill and reskill their staff. So really, I believe that tackling the digital skills gap is really a collective effort, and indeed digital innovation hubs have really a key role to play, and this is more for the action I was mentioning on the short-term trainings. So as we said, it is quite difficult for SMEs to actually understand the benefit of, I don't know, data analysis or artificial intelligence, and for them it's quite difficult. It's really difficult to understand. So the thing is, with these digital innovation hubs, they have a key role to play to actually share this knowledge and to help them actually to better understand what they can do with these digital technologies, and where they can actually find support to actually upskill and reskill their staff. So yeah, I believe they're really key in this collective effort.
So I have a question, because at the university we are confronted with that a lot, is with the education market as it is. It sounds a little bit that kind of also this new drive goes more in also a private effort. Education, like classical education, is very a public effort, and there's normally some strict lines also, because you don't want to destroy markets. And somehow, often, especially in the field of kind of the AI training on these data methods, especially if you're targeting companies, there is are these training efforts, or you can buy training, I guess. There is a market in the end. So my question would be to everybody here: did you see that we should go more in an open training materials way, with certainly destroy, like the risk of destroying certain markets there, where basically you couldn't buy the material and so on, because, or should there be always be the duality of kind of the classical training? And I think that's also very different around Europe. In the UK, kind of the university has a different funding scheme than, for example, in Germany, where everything is for free. So maybe the chances are not, these things are not so different. So do we have to transform the overall education market in a sense to address those topics? I don't know if somebody wants to go for that. Elena, maybe you were nodding at this point.
Sure. I mean, I've experienced education systems now, I think, in 4 countries, and indeed there is a certain market component to it in higher education in the UK, perhaps more so than in other countries. But to answer your questions, I think there is place for both. I think the type of teaching and vocational training we are doing at universities is targeted at other audiences than say courses that are more for professional development and upskills and are done in the workplace, or indeed pre-university education. So I think there's place both for private training providers and for public ones, and I think, you know, the decision of what is open and what isn't, to some degree, there is a lot of data science training available. Yeah, say I don't think the materials are the bottleneck. I mean, even if we're thinking about e-learning platforms, about Coursera, about edX, about various others, right? You can take an AI primer course, even if you don't have a technical background. Okay, you might have to pay if you want your coursework to be assessed and if you want a certificate, but ultimately it's not, that's not it. What people need probably is the time to do those courses, but also the ability to ask specific questions, I guess. Say, in my own limited experience with doing training with industry, it was really, most of the resources went into contextualizing how the tech part fits with the business context, and that was important for them, for as clients, but also for us as trainers to, and it did require some investment to be able to explain, you know, not just data science, but data science and how it applies to environmental sciences, or how it helps someone to build a tunnel.
So since we reached kind of our time, I would like ask everybody kind of maybe in rounds kind of there to say a little bit then. So what can be the next, like as I presented, basically some steps for the Commission, kind of providing some help there, and there, where do you think the most urgent efforts are needed that need public support, and in public support that normally also for me would include, because they're partially at least publicly funded, DIH support, kind of, what would be the area where we should look next in terms of especially this upskilling, basically, which is not part of the classical university business in the sense. So I don't know who wants to start. Otherwise, in order, there maybe Arthur, because you're basically, where do you think kind of what would be the most urgent area kind of that could be tackled in a way there?
Well, maybe I can say it again. I think we need really two clear things. The first one is indeed upskilling and reskilling the current workforce, because it's true and it's clear. Definitely today we all need at least some kind of basic digital skills, and without this, definitely we can't live and work. And the second thing, and I think it's also really important in Europe, because we are actually in a global competition, and I believe, and we believe at the European Commission, that it's also really important to train more and more ICT specialists, to be sure that today in Europe we have this best data engineering, we have the best specialists in artificial intelligence, in high performance computing. And the thing is, I believe investment shouldn't be only in technologies, but also in people, because people are actually the one creating these technologies, and this is definitely today an urgency to be sure that we can still compete globally.
So Andreas, you want to add a short?
Yeah, sure. Actually, very simple. SMEs are able to invest time and money once they have understood what benefit they have. So we should focus a lot on doing the first step to get them going, either to support them a little bit financial, or develop the proper information and well test before invest efforts. So we need to reduce the first hurdles, where once they are over it, in many cases, they really can even run alone with a little bit support. So focus a lot on these first steps.
Angela, any last recommendation?
Yeah. I also would say upskilling and reskilling the workforce is really, really very important. But to do so, I think it would be also very, very helpful to have a kind of artificial intelligence curriculum and data science curriculum with the basic ideas. And there is, as far as I know, no real fixed curriculum that could be used, for example, for upskilling as people in SMEs, but that can be broken down and later on also for schools. So what is the knowledge? What is the topics? What is the content that we need to have in our SMEs, in the industry, and also in school with regard to artificial intelligence and data science?
Elena, you'll be next in line in my running order here.
Yeah, I think going back to what I was saying at the beginning of the session, I would say casual everyday data literacy. Studies show that there are correlations between data literacy and all sorts of things, like trust in public institutions and trust in science and trust in experts. And those are the people who vote. And arguably, those are the people who decide who is in government and what sort of policies we're going to have, including skills. So finding a way to make data interesting and appealing and trustworthy to people, I think could have all sorts of ramifications and would affect society positively overall.
Thank you. Francesco?
I would like to say that the digital innovation hubs are very important as a regional level in order to to try to push data literacy and awareness in a small and medium enterprises. And so I would like that as a priority, we have European Commission try to to solve the financial issues that Andreas mentioned before. Also, in order to put together as entrepreneurs and enterprises networking, coordinated by digital innovation hubs, in order to get the proof of concept approach that I mentioned before towards the SMEs on a territory and on a regional level.
So thanks a lot for all the panelists today. I think it was a really interesting and long discussion. We actually managed to fill more than 1.5 hours. So thanks a lot. It was very interesting to me. I think we can take away a lot of interesting learnings also for the UOps for Data project that was partially kind of involved in the preparations here. But I think we also the audience has learned a lot. And I think there is still, I think there's WOVA things where you can basically ask things and discuss. So feel free to do so. Also the panelists, I invite everybody to do that. Now everything is crashing here. So that means we reached an end, and see you, and thanks a lot, and have a lot of fun in the rest of your data week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.